Hello everyone. Today we're going to learn Opus 60 number 5 by Fernando Sor. It's one of my favorite guitar composers. Look at this guy. It's like he's always eating cookies and drinking tea. He's a hilarious character and his music is really, really good. This is a great study to develop scales over bass drones. You should learn this if you're a classical guitarist, but even if you're just trying to get started with fingerstyle, this is a really great study to start developing that skill. You're going to develop a lot of right and left hand coordination with this etude. I'm going to break this thing down into stages. There are 4 distinct sections in this piece, so we're going to do them one section at a time, broken down into small pieces. Of course, those small pieces are the stages that you can fill in your practice journal. If you don't have a practice journal yet, you can click the card up here in the corner or check out the link in the description and I'll send one right over to your email. They're very, very handy for maintaining the consistency that is totally necessary to get good at this instrument. Okay, let's get started with section 1. I'm going to start off with the left hand fingers. We're going to talk about the right hand fingerings, and of course I need to introduce the piece's building blocks. So first off, we're in the key of A minor here, so we're going to be primarily using the A minor scale and a little bit of the A minor harmonic minor scale, and I'll show you where that pops up. If you want to know more about music theory, you definitely can check out the grand fretboard experiment on my channel right here. I'm trying to show you theoretical concepts on the fretboard using color. It's a lot of fun. So A minor, and we're also in 6/8 time. So I hear when I hear people play this, I hear people playing it in 3/4, and it's actually in 6/8. So what is the difference between 3/4 and 6/8? Well, you'll notice they actually have the same amount of eighth notes. So if we have 3 quarter notes per measure and there are 2 eighth notes per quarter note, of course we have 6 eighth notes. And 6/8 has 6 eighth notes. So what is the difference here? Well, the difference is actually very important. 3/4 goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 6/8 goes 1 and 2 and 1 and has a different pulse. So if I count a measure of 3/4 followed directly after by a measure of 6/8, you'll hear the difference. So we get 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and so it makes a pretty big difference the way that you play this. Definitely play it like it's in 6/8, not like it's in 3/4. Okay, so let's get started with the left hand fingers. Let's pull up the music as well. So with the left hand fingers here, we're going to be starting each measure with our bass note. And to start, we have the low A string. Now if you're not sure how to read music yet, you can check out my channel. I have a lot of information on that. You want to learn, if you're doing classical and fingerstyle guitar, it's a good idea to be able to read notation. So we're hitting our open A string here. And next we're going to be getting our A. We're going to be using our second finger on the G for that. And then we're going to go move to the open B. And we have C, first fret of the B. And then after that we have our pinky for the D on the B, and then our open high E for the first measure. So this would be stage 1 to write in your journal, just to get this one measure down nice and easy. So I'm gonna go really slow for you, and I'm gonna kind of count this out. So if we get a 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. All right, now without me counting. So let's move on to the next measure here. We're going to be getting an open D, the first part of that measure. And then what we're going to do is we're going to play the D, 3rd fret of our B, open high E, index finger for the 1st fret of the high E. Then we're going to be playing the D on our B string again, that 3rd measure with our pinky, and then our open B. So what we get overall is 2 and 1. So let's get that measure down for a moment. I'm going to switch the camera angle so that you see my right hand fingers. We're going to add 2 measures in at a time. So if we have the first 2 measures in 6/8, so if we get 1 and 2 and 1, 2 Okay, so our right hand fingerings, we're going to be starting with our thumb. Then we're going to get index, middle, and then index, middle, annular. So thumb, index, middle, index, middle, and annular for that high E. Let's take another listen. Okay, so for measure 2, we're going to be getting thumb, index there on the B string, middle to cross to the high E, annular for that first fret, middle, and then index. So thumb, index, middle, annular, middle, index. You'll notice I'm using rest stroke on just about everything. So overall, what we get is so thumb, index, middle, index, middle, ring, thumb, index, middle, ring, middle, index. Okay, let's look. All right, let's take a look at measures 3 and 4. Of course, if you want to download the PDF, members of musicandguitarlessons.com can download this PDF. I love my members. I love the support they give me. Okay, so we're going to be doing our first 3 notes of that measure. 2nd fret of the D for that E, 1st fret of the G, and open B. So we get thumb, index, middle, and we're going to get the low E again, open high E, and then 3rd fret of the B. So it's 1 and 2 and 1. After that, we're going to be getting our open A, and then we're going to do the 1st fret of the B, open B, then the 3rd fret with the pinky, and you're going to do a pull off. See how I'm plucking with my pinky? I'm actually physically pulling that string down, and then open B again. So what we get is, so, oops, I did a pull off on that last one. So and then we get 1st fret, open, 3rd fret with the pinky, pull off, open string again. So overall, 2 and 1 and 2 and 2 and Okay, let's take actually one more listen to it. Let's take a look at the right hand. This would definitely be stage 2. And then next what we're going to do is we're going to put the entire first top. Alright, let's take a look at the right hand fingerings for measures 3 and 4. So for measure 3 we have thumb on the D, index on that G string, middle, then thumb, ring, middle. So thumb on the D, index on the G, middle on the B, thumb on the low E, ring on the high E, middle on the B. Next we're going to get thumb on the A, middle on the B, index, and then middle, pull off, index. So middle, index, middle, index. Now both of them together, thumb, index, middle, thumb, annular, middle, thumb, middle, index, middle, pull off, index. Alright, let's take a look at the entire. Okay, our next stage here is to take a look at the entire first line, be able to play it, and we're going to take a look at the second line. Again, check out that practice journal up there. You can write these stages in. So let's take a listen. We get 2 and 1 and 2. this like it's in 6/8, remember. All right, everybody, let's take a look at line. All right, so on the second line, you're going to notice that the first two measures of that line are identical to the first two measures of the piece. So we're not even going to cover that for the sake of time. Learning to practice this way is really good because you'll be able to do more with your time. So we'll say, we've already learned the first two lines. We don't need to practice them again. But what we do need to practice is the measures 3 and 4 of the second line. So we're going to be going with your second fret of the D for that E, first fret of the G, open B, and then what's going to happen is you're going to sneak your third finger down there to get that second fret of the G string, and then you're going to hit your second fret of the D again, and then first fret of the B, and then open B, and then your first fret of the G, open high E, thumb. And we get this really cool kind of I think it's really helpful when you're playing this. I really like so we get da 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 da, and that's our 6/8. So 1, 2. So when you're doing that, make sure you practice just these third and fourth measures as your next stage. And of course, you can write it up in your practice journal. And we get 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, let's look at the right hand fingerings for this part because that can actually be a little tricky. Okay, so for the right hand, we're doing thumb on the D, middle on the G, and then we're going to do ring on that open B. And then that's going to let us get the G again with the middle, index on that D string again, and then we're going to get annular on the B, and then middle again on the B, and then index, annular, thumb. So we get thumb, index, ring, middle, index, ring, middle, index, ring, thumb. Okay, so let's take a look at the whole second line. All right, let's take a listen to the whole second line. Let's take one more look. Okay. After you have this down, remember, write this in your practice journal. Get this down before you move on to the next section. Let's take a look at the next section now here in the video. All right, so for the next section, we're going to be starting on the 5 of the key of A. Now, if you're not sure what that means, you can check out the Grand Fretboard Experiment as well as Music Theory in One Lesson on my channel. That'll fix all of that. You should definitely know it. And members of musicandguitarlessons.com have some cool exercises on that website to train their musical brain, so to speak. So to start, we're going to be getting the second fret of the D, but what's happening with this is you have a tie all the way to the next measure, so you're going to have to keep this finger down as you play the next two measures. So I'm going to run you through both measures in a row and take it really slow. So here we go. First fret of the G for G sharp, open B, open high E, third fret of our B string, open B, then we get first fret of our B string, and then with the third finger you're going to get second of the G, back to the first of the B, open high E, first of the B, second of the G. So So what we get is let's try it again. So 2 and 1. So let's take a look at the right hand fingerings for those two measures. For the right hand on this one, we're going to be starting with thumb on the D, index on the G, middle on the B, ring on the high E, middle again on the B, and then index again on the B. Then we get ring on the B, index on the G, middle on the B, ring on the high E, middle on the B, index on the G again. So one more time. Thumb, index, middle, ring, middle, index, middle, index, middle, ring, middle, index. All right, let's take a look at the next two lines. All right, so let's take a look at the next two measures here. We're going to be starting with the low open E, and then first fret of the G, open B, high E, third fret of the B, open B, and then open A, first fret of the B for that C, open B, second fret of the G for the A, first fret of the B for that C, and open high E. So time, 2 and 1 and 2 and 2 and 2 and let's do it one more time for measure. Okay, let's take a look at the right hand fingerings. Okay, so we're going doing the thumb on the low E, index on that G, middle finger for the B, annular for the high E, middle for third fret of the B, and then index for the open B, and then thumb after that. We're going to do middle for first fret of the B, ring for open B, index for that G, middle, and then ring for the open high E. So what we get is let's take a look at the entire first line of this second section. All right, let's take a look at the entire first line of this second section. We've just learned the two separate parts, so if you used your practice journal correctly, you've got them down pretty well. Now let's put them together and take a listen. So 2 and 1. Another one. Then one more for good measure. All right, let's take a look at the next line. This next line is especially beautiful. All right, let's take a look. All right, so for this next line, I'm going to do all of the measures together. This really is just one straightforward phrase, and this really brings out the 6/8 time. So starting, we have our open D, and then the F is the first fret of our E, G. Then we get our open B twice. So first fret of the E twice for those Fs. Then open G, open B twice. We're going to get that C on the third fret of our A string. And then our open E twice. And then third fret of the D with our pinky. And the second finger is going to get second fret of the G for that A. Right, so we have this dun, da, 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 da. Then we're going to get the open D, two of our B open Bs, second fret of the D for that E, two G sharps, then our open A, second fret of the G with your third finger for the next A, second fret of the D with the second for the E, and then again the open A. So let's take another listen to this one. One more time. Let's take a look at the right hand fingerings for this one. A little bit easier. Okay, so the right hand fingerings are pretty solidly just thumb, middle, index. So through all of them, we're just going to get that same pattern. Thumb, middle, index, 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 thumb. So it's the same pattern over and over again. Now here's something tricky, and this is for more advanced players, but if you want to try this for now, give it a shot. It's going to make things sound a lot better. So when I am going between these, you'll notice that my thumb jumps to damp the other bass so that they don't run into each other, and you get a nice, clear sound. Okay, let's take a look at the entire second section. All right, let's take a look at the entire second section. If you need a recap on the fingerings or anything, just hit that rewind button. I'm just going to play it for you. I'm going to count myself in. Remember, we're in 6/8 time, and we want to make it sound like 6/8 time. So, 2 and 1. So let's talk a little bit about the theory and interpretation of the first half. I'm going to give you a little bit of the theoretical background, and then I'm going to tell you how you can use that theoretical background to influence the way that you play this. So first off, we're in A minor, and we're actually outlining a 1-2-5 progression for the beginning. And the second half is the same, or sorry, the second line of the beginning is the same. So it goes 1-2-5, 1-2-5, 1. So what that means, if you've checked out music theory in one lesson, which you absolutely should, and if you haven't, it's up here in the cards. Basically, we start with our root note of A. Now you'll see the A minor scale down here. There's our root note of A, and we're outlining every other note in that scale to get our 1 chord, which is A minor. So what we do is A, and then this is what's called a passing note. Here's the next note of our triad, another passing note, and then the last note of the triad. So we have our 1, 3, 5 outlined, and 1, of course, appears twice. So here that outlines the 1 chord. And next what we're doing is the 2 chord. So this is actually 2 in first inversion, so it's our B diminished chord, but what we get is the D first. So we actually get D in octaves, and then once we hear that B, it's like, okay, yeah, that's our diminished chord. And if we wanted to listen to all those notes at once, this is the chord that's being outlined. So what we get is 1, and then 2, 1, and 2. Now, he's putting those passing notes. So we have, here are 2 notes of the chord. This open E, high E, is a passing note. And then the first fret of the E string, our F, is another part of the chord. That D is still another part of the chord, and then the open B is a part of the chord as well. And I was actually, when I was playing that as a chord, I was using this B, which is the same diff. So what we get is our 1, oopsie, sorry, and then our 2. Next we're getting our 5 chord. So we get, so that G sharp is coming from our A harmonic minor. Now you'll recall from Music Theory in One Lesson that you sharp the 7th note of the scale to get harmonic minor. And they call it harmonic minors because it gives us this harmony that pulls us back. So if you hear this, that feels like it wants to resolve, especially when we add that D in there, which we do at the end of the measure. This is our 5-7 chord because we also have the 7th note that is above the root of our E. And between the G sharp and the D, and you'll recall from Music Theory in One Lesson, that's a tritone, and that G sharp wants to move up to A, and then the D wants to move down to C. So you're building tension with this third measure, and this note here, that D is a tense note, and then, right, so it wants to pull you down because it's the 7th note of that 5-7 chord. So we get, so, right, don't hold on to it that long, I was exaggerating, but that's what the theory can tell you about your interpretation. Also, keep in mind that the 2 chord really acts as something to bring you to the 5 chord. It has what's called a predominant function. So, a little more stressful. Right, then you let that tension go with the A, and you're taking a breath, and then you're back into it. So we get, can influence the way that you play because you're building tensions as you're moving forward with the 1, the 2 in first inversion, 5-7 chord back to 1. And that's exactly what happens for the second line here. The only difference is we have what's called a half cadence, and it's authentic. So this is a classical music thing, but this is a really cool deal to learn. So when you're going 1, so we get, of course, the 1 because the next measure is the same as the first, and then the 2. Go to the 5 chord, but then we go real quick back to the 1 chord again, which is A, C, and E. But this time, the 5th note of that chord, that E, the 5, is in the bass. So that's a 1 and 2nd inversion, and then back to 5. So that's what's called a half cadence, and it ends on the 5 because it feels like, oh, there's got to be a next section. And coming up is the next section that starts with the 5 chord. So the purpose of that first opening section is to say, here's our thematic material, here's our chord progression. Next, let's build some tension, and I want you to feel like that tension is being not only built, but we maintain a little bit of it at the end of the measure so that you're ready or the section, so that you're ready to move on to the next section, which is actually starting with the same tension. So that's our 5 chord, and we outline our 1, and then we outline our 5 again. Of course, it's 5-7 because we have that D, B, and then our 1. And then what we get here is a sequence. On this next line, it's really neat. So if we're going D, F, what does that mean? That we're doing the 4. And then we move to our 7 chord. But you'll notice that we're moving around the circle of fifths, but staying in our key, right? So if we're going D minor, well, D is the 5 of G, and it's outlining G, the 7. Next we have C and E, which outlines our 3 chord, but the 3 chord is we're going, in fourths here. So the G is the 5 of the C. And then the C chord moves to an F chord. So F and A is outlining F major. C is the 5 of F. then F is moving to a B in first inversion. And then after that, so F is the 5 of B. Of course, I know it's F sharp, but we're staying in key here. And we're moving to the actual 5. So the 2 has that predominant function again, and then 5. We've built the tension here, and then here we let it out. So this as a sequence, we're actually kind of just building a little tension as we move to each one. So we get. Try again. Okay, so those are the theoretical ideas behind this. I'm going to break this video lesson into 2 parts, and I'm also going to upload a performance of this. I really want to be very, very clear that you have to take this one step at a time. There shouldn't be way too much material in each video. So look for my performance coming up soon. This will all be in a playlist, and if you want to access the playlist, it's up here in the cards or down there in the description. There will be part 2 where I cover the second half where we switch to A major. It's really cool. And then we're going to go to a performance as well of this piece that I will play for you. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Definitely check out my channel. Do not forget to subscribe or check out the next video. Happy practice, everyone. Definitely do not forget to subscribe and like this video.